People of the world, welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 242. Today on the show, we have a sales guru. Doesn't that word get used too much? A guru, really? Are they a guru? They're an expert. They're a sales trainer. His name is Shawn Channell, and I'm thrilled to have him on the show, and I'll tell you why. When I was a young boy, I was 19 years old. No, I was 20. How old was I? I was young, and I was sitting in a cubicle and in an empty office space, and there were all of these just empty chairs and empty phones, and I was like the one sales guy. It was very awkward, and there were two owners, and they sold auto parts on the phone. And let me tell you, there is no torture quite like the torture of being someone who doesn't know anything about cars. I knew nothing, and I was cold calling random auto body shops to try to get them to buy parts that I couldn't even tell you what they were. And just call after call after call. It was like I made no money. I maybe made like $200 the entire summer. And I just was emotionally abused by these people who are like, just hang up on you. They're like, go to hell. Like, it was the worst emotional torture ever. Obviously very happy I went through it, because now I'm selling something that I understand, that I believe in. I also understood that teaching, although teaching your first few years, because I was a teacher, is rough, that sales, oof. I mean, you got to eat a slice of humble pie, man, for real, if you're going to be a salesperson, because it hurts. And then if you want to be a business owner, like I somehow managed to become, then you also have to understand that not only do you have to continuously eat a slice of humble pie, but you have to teach other people how to do that as well. And so teaching salespeople is a skill set that in a capitalist environment is so incredibly important, which is why I am thrilled to have the one, the only, the salesman himself. Cue the fog machine. I need confetti cannons. Welcome to the show, Shawn Channell.
That might be the best introduction I've had.
Let's go, Shawn. Let's go. So here's my problem. I just want a lot of money without having to do anything. Can you help me with that?
You just want a lot of money without doing anything?
Yeah, do I have to do stuff?
Well, I mean, you have to. Yes, you have to do stuff.
Okay, all right. Then we agree. On at least that. So all of these salespeople running around early on, are they not just going to get emotionally just beat down by rejection? Is that almost always the case?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've worked with thousands of new salespeople at this point, and the ones that come in that think they're not going to get the emotional toll are the ones that have the biggest area to fall, right? Like they end up crashing the hardest because they think they're not going to be impacted by the sheer amount of rejection, and almost always they stumble, and it's hard on their ego. Yeah.
Do you think that there's a correlation between the way we raise our children in public school and that entire system? If you work hard, you'll get an A. Just do these things and you will be rewarded with the best possible results. Or if you kind of like do halfways, you get a B or a C. And that whole frame is not sales at all. It is a completely different beast. So do you think that a lot of the suffering that people have is due to just never having an experience that's anything like it?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, we as a society avoid rejection at all costs, right? It's in the school systems and it's in our sports systems. It's in everything, right? We don't like rejection, and that's fair. And there's some, I guess, similar ways. I mean, you have to put in effort and you have to put in work to see success in sales, right? So that in an aspect is similar to school. If you don't put in work, you're not going to get an A. But and I'm horrible at this. Fortunately, our youngest he's picked up a lot of the sales acumen, right? And he's a great little salesperson. And I've always said that kids are the best salespeople. They just the word no doesn't mean anything to them, right? We train that into them, but when they're young, they just keep asking, right? Can I have some ice cream? You're like, no. And then they're like, why not? And you're like, because I said so. And they're like, well, why is that a good reason? And they just keep, and then they start bartering. I'll clean my room. I'll be quiet. I'll eat my dinner, right? Like they're just little salespeople. But we train it out. So I think you're spot on that the system.
There might be something there. Yeah, there might be something there. Shout out to DJ Night Train writing. I love it. Sales is the ish. So whatever that means. And then Caroline Welsh, not to mention the participation trophies. So yeah, like my daughter the other day, she took all of her art to the park. And she just went person by person. She's like, art for sale. Have you not seen the art for sale? Come see the art for sale. Like just unabashed, does not care. And then when she was selling it, she'd have like a $20 price tag and people would be like, I got 4 cents. She was like, I'll take it. She'd take any quantity of money that they had from whatever her dollar amount was. Oh, it was the cutest thing. So she made $3.40 or $3.44. And then she gave $2 of that to her secret crush.
Oh wow! Okay. I mean,
how funny is that, dude? She's 7.
Wheeling and dealing and bribing people. I mean, she's got all the
people. I would give it's like the best investment in her mind was more than half of her profits. Just give it to her, the love of her life. Oh, too funny. So yeah, sales is it's so horrifying until it isn't. I can't explain it any other way. It's because now I just don't even, it doesn't faze me, at all. I'll tell you this story. I walked into a room with this company and literally this guy, arms crossed and doing the whole thing. And he's like, you don't rank for SEO Las Vegas. He's like, why should I hire you for SEO? And I'm like, okay, here we go. I was like, well, I was in a company before I started my own, and we did rank number 1. And guess what? The phone didn't ring. So ranking well for an SEO related term when you're an SEO company isn't this magical panacea that you would think it would be. And oh yeah, it took us 7 years to get there. And do you want to know how many resources it took? It just wasn't the right move. B2B is not B2C. But you know what I'm saying? It's like it being prepared and ready and this sort of so when you're doing sales trainings, do you ever miss just selling, and just being a sales guy and just so much easier and don't, because training is, it can be so, I don't know, it's teaching, right?
It is. Well, I mean, now as a business owner, I get to do both.
Right.
So, I'm part of my ownership is I'm selling, but as a sales trainer, as a sales leader, one of my training tactics was I always kept a list of prospects and I would put my, either my team or the class in a room and I would just make cold calls and I'd let them listen to me do that.
Cold calls for your sales training or cold calls for?
Yeah, I mean, it was just here. Let me show you what I'm talking about, and I would.
No. But what I'm saying is like, what were you selling on the cold call?
Oh, whatever product or service we were selling as a company, right? So
you'd go into their company and they're selling widget X, and so you would do a cold call for widget X.
Widget X, yeah.
Dude, that's so sick. I love that.
Well. There's 2 reasons. One, you got to keep, as a trainer, I believe you have to keep yourself fresh, right? Like, there's nuances that change over time, even if the basics are the same. And so you have to, test your skills. But nothing earns the respect of your team, your class, right? Of anybody of saying, look, I'll hop on the phone right now and show you exactly what I'm trying to accomplish and how it should sound. And you get a lot of buy-in when you're willing to jump on the phone and make a cold call. And so to me, that was always a way of feeding that urge to sell, because I do like it. I mean, once you've gotten good at it, it's a game, it's a challenge, it's a competition, right? Like, how do I turn this total stranger into a friend? But then there's a lot of side benefits from a leadership perspective of earning that respect, setting the example, having a reference point for coaching conversations. All of those things come as an end result of that too. So it's kept me on point over the years. So
dude, that's some Jedi stuff right there. Where you're willing to roll up. I wonder if it would be so fascinating to see you doing like a keynote, in front of like 500 people and just, I'm be like, I'm gonna do 4 cold calls. We're just gonna see what happens. Because there is a circle of hell. I don't know which one it is. I think it's the 5th or 6th circle of hell that is specifically reserved for cold calling. Where, you died, you made some egregious, horrifying sins, and then you're just forced to cold call for eternity or whatever, for however long it takes you to get out of there. No, cold calling sucks. And I did it for that company. I also did it for one other. We were selling. Oh Lord, this is so funny. Like, we thought that 3D televisions were going to be like the next big thing, and they're obviously not. This was years ago. And so I called the VP of marketing for Land O'Lakes. So Land O'Lakes is this huge dairy company and I get the voicemail. You're never supposed to leave voicemails, but I did. I'm like, and I was just in a mood. You ever get in a mood? And I just talked about how much I love the people I work with. I was like, I love these people. They're amazing. They deserve a shot. This is ridiculous. I was just going off, and dude called me back and they got a meeting and it was a whole thing. So I learned a lesson there too about just that being emotionally raw and sharing that with people. Sometimes it totally backfires and they hate you forever. They just hang up on you, but sometimes it works.
Yeah. I mean, first off, I train people to leave voicemails. I don't think you should leave a voicemail every time you call, but voicemails have an impact. But your point, not pitching is part of the secret, right? Like, a lot of sales methodology, sales training is based around pitching, and that's not the direction I go. It's your best course of action with a cold email, a cold call, especially a cold voicemail, is to do something that most people don't, right? Talk about your cat, right? Like, something that makes you stand out and look different than the guy who's given that 30-second elevator pitch, right? That,
right.
They don't call back.
You know what? There's so much truth to that. And I feel so bad because I've kind of extricated myself from the sales process, and pat on the back, I'm good at it. It's the reason why I own a company, and that's always been my pattern. It's just, be wacky, be entertaining, and don't talk about marketing. I'll just talk about something, just get to know the person, whatever. And then usually they're the one that's like, okay, let's talk about a website. And I'm like, okay, if we have to, there's this great scene in The Office where Michael Scott is sitting across from a client. Not sure if you're familiar with this particular scene. And he takes him out to drinks and they spend like 2 hours just partying and having a lot of fun. And eventually the client's like, look, you're more expensive than the competitor. Like, I can get it for cheaper. And Michael Scott's like, I know. And there's nothing I can do about it. It just is what it is, And he's like, okay, I'll go. I'll keep with you anyway. But just, I love it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're buying from people, right? Like, if it's one of the things that, I talk with some clients about, and I'm certainly not a marketing guru, right? This is not my territory, but there's this distinct difference between marketing and sales. And marketing is to get people your brand out there and get people potentially warmed up. But if marketing was the only thing that was necessary to close business, we wouldn't need salespeople, right? Like,
of course.
There's that change between getting them to come to the sales conversation and then the sales conversation. And that's where the one-on-one piece comes in. That's where the personality comes in. That's where we become either, partners or we don't. And, there's lots of different sales methodologies out there, but a lot of those sales methodologies are the reason that sales has such a bad rap. And
well, there's some truth to that. I mean, I was like laying in my bed the other day and the doorbell rang. And I like opened up my curtain. I'm on the 2nd floor and I'm looking down. And there's just these 2 like 12-year-old girls with something. And I'm like, I'm not going to engage these girls. You know what I mean? Because they wanted to sell me some chocolate or some random thing. And I'm like, bro, I'm not even going to talk to you. And it's just not going to happen. Holy chat. Wow, that is quite the chat we just received. Okay, DJ Night Train writes, the sooner you don't look at it as rejection, the better off you'll be. That's true. Learning the ABCs of honing your chi. What are we talking about chi for? I realized my skill set had to increase and to reach a certain sales level, and that is a numbers game. That's true. Then I became successful with the willingness to do so in a pursuit. So DJ Night Train coming at us with some sales experience. Let me know if you have a question and I train for Shawn. So I obviously own a marketing agency, and we're starting to do social media trainings because just as a lead gen sort of thing, so for me, there's two benefits. There's, the fact that I get to grow my staff into that sort of world. We could potentially sell it, so it could be a revenue driver, but it's also a great way to get in front of businesses, So how do you get clients that are willing to pay you for sales training?
Well, there's been lots of kind of different avenues at this point. A lot of it's been referral based. I'm getting a lot of, I'm building a network that has referred me. I've also done some keynote speaking that has resulted in clients as well.
Yep.
Seen a little bit of interest. I've got some leads, certainly from being on podcasts and shows like yours. So that's been an impact. The social media aspects, I've got a pretty large, say, LinkedIn following or connection base, and that's even brought in some leads. So it's been, has been a consistent or a overly significant aspect of how I'm bringing in clients to date. It's really been a true melting pot at this point, where I'm just little bits from different avenues, and the marketing side is definitely where I've had to do the most learning as an individual. But I mean, I send prospecting emails. I make cold calls. I mean, I'm doing lots of different components, and all of them have been giving me some return on that investment. So
okay, yeah, marketing is a black hole. It will just suck all energy, and sometimes it'll spit out money, like the north south, little like lights that shoot out of black holes. But as someone who's been in marketing for so many years, it's just like sales. It's that same level of nausea where you can, for example, Google Ads, you can light money on fire. Is the easiest thing on planet Earth to just create a little bonfire. You're toasty for about 2 seconds, then you're like, well, that wasn't worth it. And so in my experience, you can't have a mediocre team. You just can't, because you have to be excellent, or just don't do it. There's no point. A good example is like 1,000-word blogs with custom graphics are required if you're going to blog at all nowadays, right? There's no point in writing those with no photos. Like, it's pointless. Having a show is almost a prerequisite in 2021, to getting a company to get a foothold. And then every individual social media platform is insanely, how do you put it? It's the discipline one has to have in every one of these platforms now. LinkedIn. Are you good at LinkedIn? Well, then you're probably not good at Google Ads. Are you good at Facebook ads? Well, then you're probably not good at SEO. You're good at SEO? Well, you're probably not good at web design. Good at web design? Well, you're probably not a good graphic designer. And I get these resumes where they're like, they list all of them. Everyone still does that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, why do you do that? Is sales like that? Where people are like, I'm good at cold calling. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. And you're like, no, you're not.
The market, the industry has tried to separate those two things. There are people that are good at farming, right? But and when I say farming, they're good at working. They're customer service reps, right? Like that. And to me, that's not sales. Like, you can do a good job of supporting your client and keep that business, and maybe even grow it a little bit, but you're not really selling, right? They're just,
that's right.
And then there's the hunting side. And to me, when I work with companies, especially smaller companies, I'm saying, let's just find hunters, right? Let's just find hunters, and let's focus on the hunting side of the business versus, if you want to grow sales within your existing clientele, cool, let's hire a hunting to do that, right? Let's have a hunter who just goes to your existing customers and hunts for new lines of business. But it's hunting for business it's really sales. I work with a lot of people who've come from, say, retail sales. But there's a big difference between making a cold call and having someone walk into the store and saying, hey, can you help me pick out this pair of jeans or this pair of
Dude,
sunglasses or
dude, it's
cell
still
phone.
customers. It's customer service to me. If you're standing there and they come to you, it's still farming. Even if, you know what I mean? Even I know this is awful to say, but as a car salesperson, you're standing there and they come to you and it's like, they want a car.
Yeah, it was some of my early forays were in real estate, which is you have to get out there and you have to hunt. I did a couple stints in car sales, and you're right. The car sales, they come to the lot, right? You don't go out and find clients that way. It wasn't until I did door to door that I really understood, one, how to get past rejection, but two, what going out and hunting looked like. I mean, we talked to 100 people a day, and we knew that 90 of them were going to say no in some various form of aggression. So that, and then I went from, door to door to cold calling businesses. And so that really, you understand the difference between standing on a lot, like you said, waiting for a client to come to you, and when you have to pick up the phone or, pick up your feet and go find that potential customer. There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah. So as I mentioned to you before, we develop a chronology on this show. It's part of what we do. I'm going to try to understand, as if I'm your therapist, I'll be sending you an invoice. Why did you end up doing this? I mean, let's go all the way back. Elementary school. Okay. Were you shy? Were you extroverted? What kind of naturally, kid were you?
I'm by nature introverted. I was shy. I was awkward. I was rail thin. My pants wouldn't stay up. I had to wear suspenders, and I got made fun of for the suspenders.
Right.
One of my nicknames in high school was Stick Boy, because I was built like a stick. I mean, I was not popular with the ladies. I was outgoing. I was all the things that you don't want to be in elementary and in high school.
Right. And so I don't get it. So what was your first sales job?
Real estate, 19 years old.
Okay. So you're 19. Are you still skinny? You still wearing suspenders?
I was still very thin. I put on about 25 pounds and grew like 4 inches the summer after I graduated from high school. So I wasn't as thin, but you're still talking like $135. Like I was,
Yeah. And you get into real estate. You don't go to college then?
So I did. I went to community college right out of high school. And what I realized with especially community college is like high school with no rules. Mm-hmm. So I had a propensity, me and my best friend, to skip class, to go to the arcade, to go buy new CDs, to go to breakfast. And consequently, after 2 quarters of not going to class, my grades weren't very well. And they said, shape up or ship out. And my solution to that was, well, I'll just ship out. Right? So
right.
And so I was living in a small town where I grew up, not a lot of opportunity. I'd always wanted to go into business. And for me, I started looking at how can I get into business at 19 years old with no degree, no education, and there's no real opportunity. And pretty much anybody can get a real estate license. So
right.
I had a friend whose dad was in real estate, not in our same town, but he was in the big city and was very successful, and said, well, I can start here and learn this. And so it took me like 3 weeks to get my real estate license, and then got into real estate and then sucked at it. So
yeah, real estate's like that, where people are not sure what they're going to do, and they just like, I'll be a realtor. And so you did that, but who wants to buy a house with a 19-year-old realtor?
It turns out not too many people. It's a matter of that. I was still with my parents, didn't know anything about owning a house, maintaining a house.
You've never owned a house?
I never even lived in my own house. I like literally living in my parents' house. It was a small community, so I did make some sales over the course of 2 years. Because people knew my family, they knew, who I was through sports and high school and the community. So, there was some pity sales. But the thing with real estate is you're not like, there's two aspects of real estate. The biggest part of the sales thing in real estate is you have to sell your name so people will list with you. And that's how you really make money, is getting listings. And I was not good at that. I think I got 2 listings in the 2 years where someone was said, I trust you enough to sell my house for me. The other side is people come and they say, I need to buy a house. And, you know, people walk in the door of the real estate office, people call on the phone, they come to the website. So, you know, as a real estate office, you get opportunities that way. And all you're really doing is you're showing people houses. You don't, you know, the house. They either like the house or they hate the house. You don't convince them that they need to buy this house. So I was able to make some sales just via the, you know, the up process, the people coming into the door and saying, hey, we want to move here and we need a house. But my selling skills themselves were not good or developed.
Yeah, at 19, I mean, how could you possibly?
Yeah. Nope.
So, all right. So 19 to when is the real estate stuff?
21.
And then you quit. What'd you do?
Did. My dad convinced me that I needed to go to college because I wasn't making any money. And we got into a heated argument about it, but I agreed. And so I enrolled at a university. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have to leave. I have to dedicate myself and focus. So I got accepted into university, but I had like 4 months between then and when I had to go to school. So I went to car sales. And that was my first stint at a car dealership. And these were a couple of old school, you know, second gen salespeople that were hardcore. And that did not go well for me.
Because they just ate you alive, or what? I mean,
yeah, I'm literally getting chewed up, yelled at by the sales manager, by the owners, because you know, you did not let people leave the lot. And here I am, kind of already outside my comfort zone because it's, you know, I have to put myself out there, and they're aggressive. Like you turn people if you can't close them. Like you split the sale and you go.
Wow.
And so within, I mean, they liked me because I tend to be likable, but they didn't respect my sales game, which in retrospect, I didn't respect my sales game. So I don't blame them. But they put me on the used car lot, like the low end $2,000 and under lot.
Wow.
Where, you know, those when you're going onto that lot, and coincidentally that's the car I drove at that point because I sucked at sales and wasn't making any money. But when you're looking to buy a $2,000 car, it's because you need a car. You don't care what the car is. You know, there's no sales involved in that either. In fact, the hardest part of that job was most people couldn't get approved for financing. So I'm bringing in deals, you know, all day long, and I might get one of them approved per week because there's, you know, they don't have any money down, their credit's not great.
And how much can you possibly be making off a $2,000 car?
Oh, yeah, $100 maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, nothing, right? I mean, I was literally at that point working for barely above minimum wage, you know, and working car lot hours. So, you know, evenings, weekends, you know, 40 hours a week. Yeah.
Dude,
I saved a couple bucks for college.
Hey man, I think it's so important for people to, listeners now and after the fact, to understand that the suffering is the brand. Okay, the suffering is the brand. The scars are the brand. We hold on to these scars, and not all of them are visible, but it is precisely that suffering that we go through that propels us into these incredible things later in life. You just got to have this infinite patience to get there, and you have to not give up, and you have to cry through it, and you got to fight through it, and you know, you just keep going, and eventually, for some crazy reason, it comes together. You know, just you can't. Life will not continuously rain down hell on you without giving you a reprieve. Like all of that that you go through, it's like every tear you shed is irrigating the seeds of a better future. It's that sort of thing, you know? And so interesting to me that you went through it, because you went through it worse than I did. I taught Spanish and ESL, and I had a couple rough years, dude, because that's sales at a whole different level. You're trying to sell like an 8-year-old that he should learn Spanish, you know? Just wild. But yes, that's so interesting. So we've got a lot more of your life to cover. In future episodes, we'll go back, get more of a sense of those years, those suspender years. We'll get into those a bit more. And then we got a little bit of the kind of the early stuff, but that's good. I'm going to pitch the show, and then I'm going to give you the final word. Y'all know the drill. YouTube.com/Send It Rising is where you can watch the show live. Name of the show, Marketing is a Foreign Language, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also check it out on the Send It Rising Facebook page. Just search Send It Rising Internet Marketing. If you're feeling crazy, you can swing by Twitter at Kellen Kautzman and find it streaming live there. We're streaming on 5 places simultaneously, including Twitch.tv. iTunes and Spotify, if you are a podcaster. We had a really good day. The other day we had 33 downloads. No, so far today, 33 downloads. So looking good. And so if you want to listen to the podcast after the fact, iTunes, Spotify, and 10 other podcast platforms, you can do just that. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, Shawn Channell, is a sales Jedi, as you can tell. And we're going to give him the final word. What is it, Shawn?
I would say if you get the opportunity, especially early in your career, take a sales job. What I've found over the years is what you learn from sales will translate into a lot of areas of your life. Probably the biggest point is being a good salesperson is about being a good communicator, and communication impacts every relationship, every component of your life. And so if you can master communication through learning sales, it will benefit you tremendously down the road.
Amen. That's so true. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 242. We'll see you next time.